Welcome to this week's edition of Power Talk. Now, we're talking regional integration and the state of that, and no better person to speak with than Stanbic Group's East Africa Regional Chief Executive, Dr. Joshua Oigara, as we take a look at where the East African region stands and where the opportunities and challenges are. Always nice to speak to you on Power Talk. Thank you very much for being with us.
Glad to host you and quite excited.
Great. Let's talk about the state of the region, where we stand as we close the year 2025.
So quite exciting too. And first, I'm quite happy to come back and run the East Africa region for Stanbic. It's something I did many years ago in another bank. So quite exciting. But three things define the future moment of the continent. And you know, when you think about Africa, sometimes we don't always reflect how strong we are. Just some data points. The East Africa region's population is higher than the European Union. We are now crossing over the 500 million mark. European Union is 450. The US population is 325. So just to give you the size of the capacity of the people we have, growth has been solid. Obviously, we have many shocks. There's debt distress, there's high inflation and what you've seen, but growth was 4.8% Yvonne last year. This year we project to be 5.9%, and next year we expect to be 6.7%. That is the highest growth anywhere else on the continent and globally. So 5 of the fastest growing economies in the continent happen to be in the region. Yeah. So that's quite exciting. And what's driving that? Infrastructure, and for real, bigger infrastructure. So you have to think a little bit about, is it your roads, your ports, your airports, your telecommunication networks, your power supply? Correct? That's really important. Your hospitals. Yeah. Number 2 is going to be, for sure, what are you going to do with your trade patterns and trade corridors, what you're exporting and importing. And then finally, you're going to have a lot of technology advancement and innovation, the gig economy here. And I'd rather say that we're seeing much more mineral resources coming up, right, especially in Uganda and Tanzania.
Yeah, and we will talk a little bit about some of those drivers, infrastructure being one of them. But now that you've talked about the statistics of the region, the population, what's driving growth, let's speak about the integration of the region itself. What are your thoughts as far as that? Are we moving in the right direction? What can we do to accelerate this integration?
So, you know, Yvonne, I would say I am potentially a long-term optimist. You cannot function long-term here if you're not an optimist, especially in the African markets. And I was privileged a few days ago to visit the African Museum in Central Europe, 1920. And you're looking at the history of the continent from the 20s and now. We don't have a museum that can tell you that story here. But I would say that there may be 2 reasons for us from what we can be able to build. Our teams tend to be pessimistic. And we see that a lot in Kenya. Yeah? We are vocal, highly vocal. Actually, our level of decibels in terms of the level of voice we make is highest on the continent. But there's work going on. The DRC is doing massive energy work, massive mineral work. Uganda has got fantastic work going on today on the oil discovery and the pipeline, which is almost complete. It's 1,800 kilometers pipeline. There's new work happening in Tanzania, coming up soon on the Tasara Railway between Tanzania and Zambia, and that will transport a lot of resources. So you need to look at, because we are in the epicenter of this transformation as Kenya, you're going to be more optimistic and co-invest in the future of the region. Otherwise, we're going to, and don't forget the airports. If we don't invest in that infrastructure, what you find is we start being left behind. But we are in the epitome of a center of the region, and that is a God-given moment. What we can do is to extract value from it as businesses, as a people, for the future of the next generation.
All right. What are some of the things you think can be done? There's tariffs, non-tariff barriers. What are some of the barriers you think that we can sort of eliminate that enables this integration for Kenyans to benefit from what's happening in Tanzania, from those in South Sudan and others to benefit from what's happening in Uganda, for instance, with the railway and the minerals? What are some of the things, the barriers that need to be eliminated for this integration to be a reality?
So I give you 2 stories because I spend a lot of time traveling on the region. And when you speak about Africa level, East Africa is the most integrated. So, you know, that's quite funny. Because if you think about the Southern Africa Development Corporation, SADC, and you think about the ECOWAS, we actually are more integrated in terms of movement. Now, of course, we are not perfect. So we are coordinating ourselves to the European Union. That's something that is different. So it's building on both. saying we have got a good footprint for growth. So how do you allow people to move easily, getting our border controls managed much easier, our licensing of our people moving across corridors to be much quicker, shared resources and infrastructure. Uganda, Tanzania have a very nice way of working together. DRC and Tanzania are very good working together. We have some work to do with South Sudan, with Ethiopia, correct, with Rwanda, Burundi. But we sit on what you call as the most lucrative northern corridor. So that connects us from here all the way to the eastern part of the DRC. It is the most progressive, integrated area. So that's one area we need to be able to do. The second item is the trade agreements. Now, with AGOA having difficulties this year, you'll have to see economic partnership agreements that enable us to work as a common market within East Africa. And there are two things that I'm so excited about. On the macro level, which is an important aspect, we are converging. Interest rates are decelerating today. Exchange rates are getting much more steady, if you look at it. And then fiscal deficits that we worry about are narrowing a little bit to a number of countries. We are looking at those are three main components. When you see that convergence, it is one in a moment. So that's one part for me in terms of the integration that I see for our markets.
When we speak about AfCFTA, it's a word that comes up quite often. Many countries have ratified it.
Correct.
Is that one of the enablers that you see for integration, and perhaps now not just speaking as a region, but as a continent? And Standard Bank Group is, has presence literally all over the African continent. Where do you see the progress of that with Kenya and those in the region in terms of tapping into the opportunities that presents?
So when I look at our bank, so we have been an anchor financial institutions for FCTA from beginning, from inception, and we spend a lot driving trade corridors within the larger part of the continent. But two things are critical this year. So there's been an economic partnership and a cooperation agreement between SADC and EAC
the tripartite,
today.
Yes.
So that tripartite agreement is the first actually in history. So in a way, our differences, in a way, we're willing to work on our strengths, right? That for me will be catalytic because the entire block of the continent now has a partnership agreement. That gives us enough room to exploit the trade corridors under AfCFTA for me. And that you will see, so remember we can now connect to more than 1.3 billion people in our markets. There is friction. And Yvonne, I would say this is a moment where you start with those who are most willing. So the challenge about building for perfection is a journey of continuous progress. The challenges we face as leaders of the continent, we want everything to be delivered as an A-star tomorrow.
Yes.
And we are waiting for that moment.
Right.
Even the European Union is not in that moment.
True.
So that's for me, all trade corridors, including the Asian region in southern China and Asia, they're not in that kind of moment. Yeah. So if few countries of the 54 are ready to progress, I think we need to kind of take the low-hanging fruit and exploit the potential. And for Kenya, this is where exports of talent, we are naturally talented on skills, technology, go anywhere in the continent, find our people. You find manufacturing bases. The biggest export partner for us is Uganda. Correct. Yeah, so it's the coalition of the willing, right?
Absolutely. Build that, start with that, and then progress. What do you think are some of the other regions' enablers? So
those for me will be, but then you have to go back and build. This is an issue we argue a lot, infrastructure. I come from a tea growing area. My dad has a 25 acres of land, and then we were building that, in two different places. He was a tea farmer. If you can't take the crop to market, it doesn't matter whether you have purple tea or pink tea, it does not matter to you anymore. Are we exporting products beyond EAC? So one of the things that we're looking at when you go into the western part of Africa, you find products straight into Europe. So do we have a way of getting our products into that side? When you go into South and Central Africa, you find a lot of products from the south. Do we reach, those countries we are not able to reach today? And maybe we can say the north is perhaps too far for us for the time being. Then the other part I would say is an economic partnership agreement with the Middle East. So Kenya has set up a unique model of the first commercial agreements with the UAE.
Yes, yes.
Now, many of us see UAE as a place we go and visit, right? But it's largely a very strong economic anchor for the continent. Flows of capital are moving into the Middle East, whether it's Egypt, whether it's UAE, whether it's Dubai, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Saudi. Our agricultural products actually, Yvonne, are moving in those markets.
Yeah.
So if you think about a new nerve center, so one is the European corridor, where traditionally we have historical rails. One is a commercial corridor that we can use for UAE. Now, Kenya can take advantage of that and bring in the region.
Right, and there's talks of ratifying that economic partnership
I'm waiting forward
that we
for
have
it, actually.
with the UAE. Right?
And remember, Kenya has a facility letter already with the UAE
yes.
for financing agreement in 2024.
That's
Something
right.
to salute the leadership of our nation on this.
Yeah, so it's been about 15.6 billion. That's the trade between both countries. So hopefully that that increases when that agreement becomes ratified, at least in Kenya. As we
can I say one more
yes,
thing? Then we must be able to exploit the market opportunity for what happens. UAE is a big market. This is potentially, if you think about the size of the economy, it's potentially going to cross the $1 trillion mark.
That's huge.
Correct. I mean, African economies combined, we are not even a trillion. We're not even $500 billion yet in the region. So think about, they love, and I give an example like agriculture. They lack food products. Are we delivering the quality consistently into the clients in that market? Are we going to lose that to Brazil, to Argentina, to Australia? Avocado production, strawberries production. Are we doing that? Meat production. Are we doing that for sure? It's one thing to speak about the opportunity. It's another thing to have dedicated entrepreneurs taking advantage of the market. And this is the moment for the East Africans, particularly those in Kenya.
How is Standard Bank Group catalyzing growth in the region? What's the role that you're playing in this?
So we're a bank whose core belief is Africa is home and we drive our growth. So every trade corridor, so we're the largest bank that provides lending and financial solutions for some of the most complex issues in our markets. So just right here from our partnership with the Expressway in Nairobi that a lot of people complained about, but today, if you shut it down even for an hour, you see the problems that you face here. And then we bring in special skills to be able to do so. Infrastructure, we have a massive agenda at the group level today. We are committing more than $30 billion at the group level, $1 billion equivalent for Kenya to support infrastructure progress and growth. Agriculture, we're the largest lender for farmers, across all, but large-scale farmers, across all segments. We then work with technology providers, largest providers for that. Mining, we're quite well known in those segments. So that's one part about financing. We also bring in trade connectivity to China. One of our greatest anchor partners, Standard Bank, is the Industrial Commercial Bank of China, which is the largest bank in the world today. That's the second part of those corridors that we're going to be able to build. And then number three, because we are third largest financial institution in the region, with our business in Uganda, our business in Tanzania, business here in Kenya, we're able to do a core lending partnership for clients across one rail in the market. And I'll just give you an example. We're the only institution that is partnering for the pipeline from Hoima all the way to the port of Tanzania. There's no other institution. Now, there are many questions asked, but we believe that and it also drives the question of sustainability. Because it's climate change, adaptation and mitigation. It's a massive challenge we face. We see our farmers struggling with changing weather patterns. How are you financing them? Yet, if you actually invest in the pipeline, the economic livelihood of the people of Hoima and the region is uplifted. So they have better clean fuels, they have clean energy, they have got housing, they have got healthcare. Naturally, you start addressing the consequences for climate change.
Indeed, indeed. We close, maybe just give you a minute to look into the future for the region.
So, it's quite exciting for me when I look at the opportunity for the next 5 years. This region is projected to have, the economies will reach more than $250 million by 2030. So trade is seen to be able to move it from the current, 15 to 20 billion to grow to 30, 40 billion by 2030. And what I would say for a bank of our size, we're a bank that has got the capabilities. We've got across all business segments, by the way, and it's an important question you asked me. So I spoke a lot about the large clients, but also we're powering a lot of our small and medium enterprises, the small entities, the MSMEs, the micro enterprises. We're working with women entrepreneurs to be able to give them funding to catalyze their businesses. We're also working a lot to expand our personal banking for individuals who are doing business and giving them both asset management, investment, and insurance. So this is the moment to collectively build the future of our markets, not just for us today, but for the coming generations to grow to. And it's a moment for us to be, it's historic, it's defining, and you have all the support, and Standard Bank will stand in the way for every single partner to make that growth. Thank you.
Super. Thank you very much. Collectively building. We thank you for being with us on Power Talk as we look to the future for the region, the challenges, how we can mitigate those, but most importantly, the opportunities and how we can build on those, particularly in the region. That's Power Talk with Standard Bank Group East Africa's Regional Chief Executive, Dr. Joshua Oigara.